Hey students, it's Miss Casperi. I am here to tell you about the 6 stages of clay. Where's my 6 stages of clay PDF? Here it is. All right. So as you make artwork this semester, you are going to deal with all of these different stages of clay. And I want you to have an understanding of what each stage is and how to best take care of your artwork when it's in all of these different stages and what the different stages are for. All right. So we've got stage 1, which is slip, stage 2, which is plastic, stage 3, which is leather hard, stage 4, which is bone dry, stage 5, which is bisqueware, and stage 6, which is glazeware. This is where if we get our piece all the way to glazeware, we're lucky ducks, we have done well. Oftentimes a piece can break or something tragic can happen to it before it gets to stage 6. So if you've made it all the way to stage 6, awesome job. And just keep in mind that pottery does break. And so you've got to kind of prepare yourself, for some stumbles along the way. All right. So let's take an in-depth look at these now. All right. So stage 1 is slip. Slip is basically it's watered down clay, kind of whipped up. It's sort of this like muddy muck, and it's just watered down clay. And what slip is used for, they kind of refer to it as the glue of ceramics. And so slip is what you use when you want to attach 2 pieces of clay. Now, with an oil-based clay or modeling clay or polymer clay, you can kind of warm the clay up in your hands and smush it together, and it will stay and meld. But ceramic clay, pottery, it doesn't work like that. You can't just slap 2 pieces of clay together and smoosh them together and hope that they'll stay. Clay has a memory, so it remembers that it wasn't together, and it will crack where you tried to smush it together once it gets in the kiln. So what you need to do is you need to use slip to attach the clay. So you scrape the sides. It's called scoring. You score the sides or the area that you want to attach, and then you glop some slip on the area that you scored, and then you gently press the clay together. All right, and that's how you attach clay when you're working in a pottery studio. And that's what slip is for, and it is the first stage of clay. The second stage of clay is wet or plastic clay. So this is what you think of when you think of clay. It is malleable, it's soft, it's ready to be sculpted and molded. It will dry out the longer that you work with it. And this is basically where all of your projects start. I'll give you a clump of plastic clay. All right. So that's stage 2. Stage 3 is leather hard. So leather hard is when your piece starts to dry out, but it's not all the way dried out yet. All right, leather hard. Leather hard is a wonderful stage for adding decorative details to your work because the form of what you've created stays the same, but you can add surface details. It's a great stage for carving. It's a great stage for stamping and creating texture. And it's also a great stage for if you want to make a piece that has holes in it, like you're making a luminary and you want like a candlelight to come through, you can take an X-Acto knife to the clay once it's leather hard and cut cool shapes and make some really beautiful negative space designs. You want to do that all during the leather hard stage so the original form you made remains intact. All right. Those are my kids playing in the background if you hear them. All right, so stage 4 is called bone dry or greenware. This is when all of the water evaporates out of the clay and it is dry and brittle. Now this stage 4, is the most fragile stage. So this is when you have to be the very most careful with your work and triple careful with anyone else's work. Just one tap on a table or a little collision one way or another can easily break a piece when it's in this stage, all right, stage 4 greenware. At this point, you want all of your structural elements to be completely done. There's no more adding to your piece or carving anything away. Once it's bone dry, that's sort of all she wrote. And you're not going to make many more construction moves here. So once the clay gets bone dry, that means it's finally ready for its first fire, which is called a bisque fire. So it's going to go into the kiln for the first time. It's going to fire for approximately 2 days, and it's going to come out in stage 5 as bisqueware. So if you're using white clay, it'll come out looking white like this. If you're using red clay, it'll come out looking red. But this is hard as stone at this time. So again, there's no making any sort of edits or adjustments to the form. It is what it is at this point. Can you take sandpaper to it? Yes, you technically can. It'd be like sanding a stone, but yes, you can't do it in my studio though, because it creates a toxic dust. So you have to take that outside. We really try to avoid any sort of sanding or any manipulation at this point. The piece is what it is, and it's ready for glaze. The thing about bisqueware is that the clay is not vitrified, which means the clay can still accept moisture, right? So if I were to make a cup, you can see this octopus cup here, and if I were to put water in there, eventually all the water would seep through the cup because it's still porous. The clay is still porous. It needs to be sealed and vitrified. And to do that, we apply a glaze. So there's lots of different glazes that you'll learn about in the studio, and I'll show you how to apply them. But once you get them applied, that goes in the kiln for a second time for a glaze fire. So that fires for 2 days, and out comes stage 6, your glazeware. Glazeware is typically shiny. It's almost like a very thin coat of colorful glass over the top of the pottery, and it completely seals it and coats it. So these pieces are now vitrified, which means they can hold liquid without absorbing any of it, which makes it food safe. All right, so these are your 6 stages of clay. That is my wild son yelling. So stage 1 is slip. Stage 2 is plastic or wet clay. Stage 3 is leather hard. Stage 4 is bone dry greenware. Can't make any more adjustments past this point. Stage 5 is bisqueware. It's been fired once, been through a bisque fire. Stage 6 is glazeware. It's been fired twice. It's gone through a glaze fire. All right, all right.